The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia was founded 6 years after the fall of the Ottoman Empire. Like World War I didn't matter. After an otherwise avoidable Holocaust, they lured us into a stalemate in the Far East, called Charles de Gaulle a terrorist so they could protect us from France, blamed the CIA for JFK so they could protect us from Washington, and got Reagan and John Paul II both shot so they could flood our streets with dope and force the Christians to fight our way out with nothing but snake oil and rainbows. The last king of Scotland ate his political rival before becoming the chief of the UN Security Council, so they're obviously not against it, right? Now, these are facts. I know these things. You can look it up. No matter how angry a bunch of clandestine faggots gets about it, they're still facts. Had the last emperor of China not been forced to abdicate by the Gandhi to a bunch of eunuchs, Smedley Butler said war is a racket, but he was disgruntled, and who could blame him being forced into the Muslim games against the Gandhi? War is not a racket. War is the inevitable result of failure to communicate a difference of opinion. He is called the messenger of Allah because he delivers his own agenda. His depiction is haram because he's a fugitive from the evil empire, sure, with a pet 6-year-old. You're a slave of the prophet or the infidel. What are you gonna do about it? Persecute or be martyred? How about them apples? So the network went corporate after Vietnam because our enemies pay better than the free market whose protections they enjoy. But if there is but one Allah and Muhammad is his prophet, not a corporation. You know what a corporation is. The corporation was canonized in the New Testament by the Apostle St. Paul for saved Christians and kosher Jews. 600 years later, slave-raiding barbarian heretics in the devil's playground learn how to read and disagree. They invade Europe, trigger the first Reich, ban reading, burn witches, and bumble from the conquest of one Christian neighbor to another for 600 years before sacking the Vatican and collapsing like that's all it was ever really meant to do. Called it the Holy Roman Empire, which is ironic because we already had Eastern Rome, the Holy Empire. Sounds like trouble. So there's already a Roman Empire and a Holy Church, and then the Holy Roman Empire sacks the church. Oh, you don't believe me? While the Germans are learning their ABCs again, we have this thing called the Renaissance. Middle Latin for G, thanks for our stuff back. Now, if the Templars had let bygones be bygones and absorbed the Teutonic Knights, we wouldn't have Hospitallers. The Teutonic Knights accused the Templars of Baphomet worship. Nobody ever heard of that. Wasn't on our list. Made off with the goods. Templars withdrew. Now there's a Hospitaller zombie apocalypse. As long as everybody's crazy, the peasants get to stay in charge. But first, do no harm, or you're not a doctor in any religion, hospital or no hospital. Now we're expected to absorb refugees from Martian body snatchers selling us behind our backs. Bunch of faggots calling everybody crazy, raping our kids in surgery and calling them liars till they shoot up a school. Before the Holocaust, cocaine was legal. We sold it in drugstores. We were gonna buy the world a Coke. That's a soda, you've heard of it. Sigmund Freud spent the banana wars shoving grams of it up virgins' noses with his boyfriends, went into exile just in time for a Holocaust. Since Vietnam, we can't afford white people. There is a chemistry to global high finance. The all-knowing grand masters, the masters of the universe, the pillars of the earth, didn't take into account the suppression of Kali would have, the effect it would have on culture, on civilization. Holy marriage is a real and enforceable contract. You can't stop them from doing it. Act like our money still holds water while the Reich writes volumes, superfluous language on there. Has to be our fault or we don't get to stay in charge. The Muslims won't hire us to liquidate the Caucasians. There's no such thing as flat earth. It's called anarchy. It comes from Somalia. One does not become a king of Scotland by raping Scotsmen. It would be anyone's game. We'd be selling lordship by the foot. More to the point, the Scottish invented criminal forensics. Without due process, there is no currency. So I detect a plot. Islam's not a real religion. A real religion has separation of church and state since Socrates, or we wouldn't have a word for it. There is but one Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. So in other words, everybody else has to be a dickhead. But Alexander the Great was the first true king, because first do no harm or you're not a doctor. King of the what? Diplomatic immunity since 1992, fled the United States in 2016. So for those 24 years, it was important enough to have this guy come over here so somebody didn't get in trouble for something they were doing, right? And then as soon as he flees the country, Jeffrey Epstein gets arrested and dies. He goes back where he came from. And then Germany is forced to absorb over 100,000 Syrian refugees because it only matters over here. Because it's a conventional foreign attack. We're under attack by Martian zombie assholes.